The scream tore through the desert like a blade. It was not weak, it was not begging. It was raw, furious, and full of pain, carried by the burning wind across Red Hollow. Ethan Cross froze in his saddle. His hand tightened on the reins as his breath caught in his throat. He had heard a scream like that once before, 10 years ago. Back when he still believed stepping in could save everyone. That scream had led him to a shallow grave in the sand, marked only by a crooked piece of wood where his wife and child lay, forgotten by the world. The sound came again, closer now. Ethan urged his horse forward, slow and careful, until the land opened into a wide red basin scorched by the sun. In the center stood a massive wagon wheel, planted upright like a warning. Tied to it was a young Apache girl. Her arms and legs were stretched wide in an X, ropes biting deep into her wrists and ankles. Dried blood clung to her skin and mixed with dust. Her body shook, not only from pain, but from heat that showed no mercy. She lifted her head and screamed again, her voice breaking against the wind. "It hurts. Don't do this to me, please." Ethan's fingers brushed the grip of his old Colt, but he did not draw it. A sharp pain flared in his left shoulder. The scar there burned as if reminding him of something unfinished. The wind shifted, carrying the smell of hot sand and something worse. Fresh graves. He knew the law of Red Hollow. Do not get involved. Do not ask questions. Do not save anyone. The girl saw him then. Her eyes were bloodshot, fierce, and unbroken. She did not beg. She only stared at him, asking a question without words. "Are you going to stand there, or are you going to act?" The wind howled louder, sand stinging his face. Ethan exhaled slowly. He knew if he turned away now, this image would follow him too. The end of his days. He swung down from his horse. His boots touched the sand, just as hooves sounded behind him. Slow, steady, the kind of pace used by men who expected obedience. Ethan turned. Marshal Grant Hale emerged from the dusty haze, his long coat snapping in the wind, badge gleaming under the sun. His eyes moved from the wheel to Ethan with calm judgment, as if this moment had already been written somewhere. "Knew you'd show up sooner or later," Hale said. "What's this about, Cross? You into watching people suffer now?" Did not answer. He looked back at the girl. Her hands trembled in short, painful spasms. The ropes had cut so deep that the skin around them looked torn and raw. "Cut me down," she said hoarsely. "If you're not going to help, then leave." Hale smirked and glanced at her. "Strong one." "She has a name," Ethan said quietly. "And you're crossing a line." Hale paused for a breath. "Just one, Nia," he said. "Remember it? She's bait." Nia lifted her head. "He's lying," she said. Each word scraped out like stone on stone. "He just wants me silent." Ethan met Hale's eyes. A flicker passed through them before it vanished. Ethan's shoulder burned hotter, his scar alive under the sun. "You wear a badge and still do this?" Ethan asked. "A man supposed to keep his word." Hale laughed softly. "Words don't feed the frontier. Out here, soft men die." The wind surged, slamming sand into their faces. The ropes hissed against the wood as Nia clenched her jaw. She refused to scream again. Hale rested his hand on his gun. He did not draw it. He didn't need to. "Keep moving, Cross," he said. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be." Ethan breathed deep. He saw a red sunset in his mind. A grave in the sand. A promise that had cost him everything. "No," he said. Hale squinted. "For an Apache girl?" "For what's right," Ethan answered. "And because you forgot the difference." The sandstorm came without warning. The sky darkened. The world shrank. Wind screamed and whipped the ground into chaos. Ethan drew his knife instead of his gun. "Get ready," he said. Nia studied him for a heartbeat, then nodded. The storm hit like a wall. Ethan ran. Sand cut his skin as he reached the wheel. He did not look back. A T sliced through the first rope. Nia's arm dropped hard, blood flowing fresh and dark. She gasped but did not cry out. "Stay with me," Ethan said. The second rope snapped, then the third. When the last rope gave, Nia collapsed forward. Ethan caught her, steady but firm, keeping her from hitting the ground. "Let go," she gasped. "I can stand." "K," he said. Shouting echoed behind them, swallowed by the storm. Ethan threw his coat around her shoulders and pulled it tight. "Can you walk?" She tried. Her legs buckled instantly. "Not the time for pride," he said, lifting her arm over his shoulder. "Move." They staggered toward a shallow ravine. Hooves thundered somewhere behind them. "Why did he do this?" Ethan asked. "Because I know too much," Nia said, "and I wouldn't stay quiet." "So you should have been," Ethan said. "No." He nodded. Right, a shape stepped through the storm ahead. A man named Rafe. "Gun low. Ready hail pays well," Rafe said. "Man's gotta eat." Ethan set Nia against the rock wall. "You made your choice." The gunshot cracked once. Clean. Rafe dropped, screaming, clutching his leg. "Live," Ethan said. "Tell him." He turned back to Nia. "We're not done." The storm swallowed them as they disappeared into the ravine, and Ethan knew the truth deep in his bones. From this moment on, nothing would be quiet again. The ravine closed around them like a wound in the earth. The sandstorm roared above, but down here the sound turned low and hollow, as if the desert itself was holding its breath. Ethan pressed his back to the rock wall and listened. His left shoulder throbbed in slow, heavy pulses. Blood soaked through his shirt and dried stiff against his skin. He ignored it. Pain was familiar. Silence was not. Nia slid down to sit in the sand. Her breathing was uneven, her face pale beneath the dust. The ropes had left deep grooves around her wrists and ankles. Some places were still numb. Others burned sharp and alive. "They won't stop," she said quietly. "Grant Hale does not forgive." Ethan crouched in front of her and tore a strip. From his shirt, he wrapped it around her wrist with careful hands. He did not rush. Rushing led to mistakes. "I'm not asking him to forgive," he said. "I'm asking him to miss." She almost smiled at that, but the effort faded. "You should have left," she said. "You knew the cost. So did you." Ethan replied. The wind shifted. Hooves sounded again. Closer now. Not panicked. Organized. Ethan stood and scanned the ravine. A narrow break in the rocks opened to the east, sharp and uneven. It was the only way through. "When I say run," he said, "you don't look back." Nia shook her head. "Your shoulder, I've had worse." That was a lie, but not one worth arguing over. They moved when the wind rose again, slipping through the rocks, keeping low. Ethan took point, gun ready, but held tight. He did not want noise. Noise brought attention. Attention brought death. They reached a small clearing where the storm thinned. Lantern light flickered ahead. A camp. Too clean to belong to drifters. Too quiet to be empty. Nia stiffened. "That's his ledger," she said. "He keeps it close." Ethan felt the weight of the moment settle in his chest. He could take her farther, get her out. That was the smart choice. The clean one, but clean never lasted. "Stay here," he said. She grabbed his arm. "You won't come back if you go alone." He met her eyes. "I always come back." Ethan moved through the shadows, silent as the desert after midnight. 1. Guard turned too late. Ethan struck him down with the butt of his gun. The second guard shouted. The camp woke. Grant Hale stepped into the lantern glow, gun already raised, calm as ever. You never did like the easy road, Hale said. Ethan stood between light and dark. You took from people who couldn't fight back. Someone always pays, Hale replied. Nia stepped forward, holding the ledger. She dropped it into the sand. Pages spilled open. Names, numbers. Proof that could not be. Buried hooves thundered in the distance. Ranchers, men who had lost too much to stay silent. Hale's hand lowered slowly, from fear, from knowing the fight had changed. When the cuffs closed around his wrists, the wind passed through the camp, carrying the smell of damp sand and something like relief. Ethan stood apart as Hale was taken away. He did not feel like a hero. Only a man who had chosen and now carried the weight of it. The storm passed by mourning. The desert looked tired. Nia stood beside Ethan, quiet, steady. You will be hunted, she said. I've been hunted before. He answered. They parted without promises. She returned to her people. Ethan returned to the road, knowing some choices never let you go. And somewhere behind them, the desert remembered everything. A year passed the way the desert always allowed time to pass. Quietly, without asking permission. Days bled into one another under the sun, and nights cooled the land just enough to let a man keep going. Ethan Cross built his ranch on the edge of Tucson with no sign and no pride. He worked with his hands, slow and steady, setting each post deep into the ground as if he were anchoring himself to something solid at last. His left shoulder never healed right. When the weather shifted, pain rolled through it like an old memory waking up. He welcomed it. A pain meant he was still paying the cost. And as long as the cost remained, so did the choice. Word of Grant Hale reached him in pieces. Some said the former marshal was rotting in a prison cell. Others said fever took him before justice could finish the job. Ethan never asked which was true. Out here, endings rarely mattered as much as what they left behind. One evening, a traveling merchant stopped by for water. As he left, he spoke without meaning to. Apache lands held a wind ceremony not long ago, he said. A young woman was named the listener. Ethan nodded as if hearing nothing more than a change in the weather. That night, he sat on his porch with no lamp lit. The wind moved through the fence and around the house, gentle now, familiar. He did not wait. He did not hope. He only listened. Far away, Nia stood alone on a rocky rise as the last of the ceremony faded behind her. The people had returned to their fires. Only the wind remained. It did not speak of pain. It did not speak of wheels or ropes. It only moved forward. Her wounds had healed. The marks remained, but they no longer defined her. She had learned to stand without running, to listen without fear. When she turned her horse west, it was not to repay a debt. It was because the choice was finally hers. The sun was low when she reached the ranch. Ethan was repairing a fence, his movements slow, practiced. He heard the hooves but did not turn right away. He finished driving the post, set the hammer down, then faced her. They looked at one another across the fence. No shock. No rush. Just recognition. I figured the wind would decide, Ethan said. Nia dismounted and tied her reins herself. I didn't come to be saved, she said. And I won't stay if it costs me who I am. Ethan opened the gate without stepping. Through it, no one owns anyone here, he said. We stand side by side if we choose to. She stepped inside, not behind him, not ahead. Beside, that night, there were no promises spoken, no vows made, just firelight, quiet air, and two people who understood the weight of choosing right when it would have been easier to turn away. Out on the frontier, justice was never loud. Love was quieter still. It did not demand. It did not claim. It simply stayed once the cost had been paid and the running had stopped. The wind moved on, carrying nothing with it this time. And for the first time in a long while, that was enough.